Welcome to the Build Week 4, Episode 5. Now, Build Week 4, as you know, last week we were a bit lacking in parts. So, the first of the deliveries are in the system, on their way to us. Hopefully we'll be able to crack on with lots of things this week. Let's see how we do. The engine and gearbox are now in position over the chassis, which to be quite honest has been really quite nerve-wracking. So let's take you back, show you how we got this here, and then we'll carry on. We think we've had a delivery left in the post box. Oh yes. Deliveries are starting to arrive. Thank you to Paddock Spares, as always, for your excellent service. And this one's from Landy Point. Just opening this box from Landy Point. Lovely to see that they're sending out the Euro spare parts as well. So in a previous episode, you may remember we cleaned out the threads for these engine mounts. We now have the correct bolts so they can be fitted. I'm using the gauge again just to torque these bolts up for the engine mounts. This is one of the heat shields.
It's got an arrow on it, which is really helpful. You knew which way the arrow was supposed to go. And we're assuming... Oh yeah, it's got like a stubby thing there.
Oh yeah, that's clever, isn't it? So it locates it. So the heat shield is because this bit under here is rubber and it's filled with some kind of fluid, is that right?
I think it's got some oil in it.
Oil or something like that. So the heat shield, well, obviously stops it getting hot. So we're hoping that the arrow means that that's facing forward, and there's a nice little Land Rover symbol on there as well. This is the gearbox mounts that we're putting together.
Yep.
And there's also a heat shield for that. So this bit of the mounting is fitting directly onto the gearbox. It's an R380 gearbox. I'm scared. So what we're going to try and do is to get the engine more or less in place. Quite frankly, that's sort of terrifying because it's a really heavy piece of kit going into a really shiny chassis. Anyway, bear with us. Let's see how we do. So the engine and gearbox are now kind of suspended over the chassis in more or less the right place, and Chris is trying to get this gearbox mount in. Getting that in was pretty nerve-wracking. So that gearbox mount is now in temporarily. While we try and work out, we've got to get the transfer box on next and that onto its mount. That's a heavy lump. We took a trip to the coast to Les Sables-d'Olonne to see the boats about to leave for the Vendée Globe round the world race. So behind me is Medallia. Now, for those of you who don't know, Medallia is a fabulous boat sailed by Pip Hare, who's a fellow East Anglian, a great lady who's about to set off around the world solo for the second time, a 3-month voyage. Absolutely incredible. I'm so pleased to be here at Les Sables today with Medallia in the background. And Pip, if you're watching, we wish you the very, very best. We always like to have a humanitarian cause alongside our adventures. On the 5th of October, we took the little road up to Talatast in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco to visit the school project that we are supporting. Should we go and have a look?
Yeah, let's go have a look.
Along with our partners GT Tyre, we have been able to get the whole classroom repainted, and provide each of the children who have arrived for the new school year with a backpack with all the personal supplies they need for their time at school. So for Dakar, we're supporting Wonder Foundation. Wonder Foundation is a British charity led by women, and they work with women-led organisations all over the world to provide education for women and girls. I don't want to go on about it too much, but please look that up. We have a fundraising target for Dakar by the end of the event to get them £5,000 to add to their fundraising total. Now just looking at how this assembly for the seal and everything goes into the fuel tank before putting the pump in. For whoever it was that said that they enjoyed the lube parts of our video, this is for you. This is the next scary thing, because this thing has to kind of be squidged down. Right, so how do we squidge it down? We don't know. But what keeps it? I don't understand. So you've got to get that ring on and squidge it down all at the same time and then tighten the ring up.
Yes, I'm going to need more than 2 hands.
Okay, which means I have to stop filming. So to help us with this process, we have a special tool. Don't really know how that works either, but it was fantastically stupidly expensive for what we hope will be a one-use thing, but anyway. Okay. We've watched the YouTube video. I mean, they're great, aren't they? And now we're going to give this another go because it sort of didn't work last time. So what it said was that this tab here has to line up with that bit down there, if you can see that. That wasn't very good, was it? And then the ring has to be in a certain place to get the thread started. This tool seems to be more difficult to get on than the one in the other guy had, doesn't it? No. So after much swearing and pushing, the fuel pump is actually in the tank. Thank you very much to Dan from Demand for calming our nerves that we might actually break something because we had to put so much pressure on it, but it's in. Rear half shaft. Just positioning this gasket on the half shaft. What's we got? It's not lube today, it's sealant. Don't want oil leaks out of our axle. I suppose that's got to line up with the splines in the diff, has it?
Yep.
That's it. Of course, this one's much longer because the diff is off centre. trying to do is take this section off, because this transfer box came off a Discovery, and on a Defender there is a send which is blanked off on here, which I can't show you because I can't get a camera around there. It's down here somewhere in that hole there. On a Defender there's a sensor that goes into there, and it's blanked off on Discovery. So what we have to do is change this section so that it marries up with the Defender running gear. Just have a look at that. It's a strange fix in this. It's like a stud and a bolt all in one.
Remains of the felt washer.
Yeah, need a new washer, won't it? So there we go. And hopefully the new housing is in the post. It did, didn't it? Sometimes you have to look underneath an existing car to find out what we're supposed to be doing. So Chris is just looking underneath Priscilla, and I'll be joining him in a minute to see how the body mounts fit to the tub. So the thing that Chris is shining the light on, just wiggle it about a bit, that mount, if you move the light away I can probably see it, there's a little pad on top of it, which we've sort of worked out we probably need. This is what they look like on Purdy, and those pads go on the top of here. So this is the nose cone that we've changed on the front of the rear diff. You may remember we took the old one off because it was a Discovery one with 3 bolts. This is really difficult to get to. And we changed it for a Defender one with 4 bolts. Little delivery today that might help us progress a little bit. This is brake pipe from Wrights, how funny. And fittings, because we need to make the brake pipes up to run down the chassis before we put the tub on Purdy. Delilah's come to pick up this bit for Purdy today. This is the parcel that I picked up from the Mondial Relay locker earlier today, that's come from Jack in northern France, which should be the part that we need for the transfer box. It says it's for me, so that's a good start, isn't it? What have we got here? Oh, he sent other things. It's like little freebies. Thank you, Jack. Okay, this is the part. Oh, actually, that's probably not what it says on the box, is it? There's probably something else. So this is the part which goes onto here. Remember, we took that one off the other day. And it should have, just got my fingers crossed, a hole where something goes into. So what else did we get in the box?
Well, I've got the worm drive gear, which will replace this sleeve here with that.
Okay.
And then the speedo drives off of that.
Okay, and that's the other thing we've got, isn't it? Let's have a look at that. This is the part, you see those teeth on the end of that, presumably go into that.
And it comes down there and runs something like that.
We're just looking up the parts that we need to replace for this output thing on the transfer box. Flange, apparently that's what it is. It's a flange. We're just checking some of the bits and pieces on this engine and gearbox while it's exposed and we can see it. So Chris is just checking the high-low range change lever. We saw the car that this came out of, and I suspect that it's probably never been used, so it's a little bit seized up. There was also another small problem with it actually rubbing on the casing here, so Chris just filed that down a little bit because I'm going to need to use it, so we need to make sure that it's working correctly.
End up taking all of the linkage off, freeing it all up and reassembling it.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea because it is pretty gummed up, isn't it?
It's, yeah.
This was worth taking off then because it doesn't actually move at all, does it?
No.
Okay, so we think that that's a little freer now.
Yeah, that'll be better.
What are we doing, Chris?
That put this breather pipe into this little union.
So we're replacing the breather pipes while everything's accessible with nice red ones. Obviously very important that everything coordinates because we do like coordination. So just going through some of the other bits that we've got that are second hand. Some of the bits came out of Purdy, some of the bits came with the engine. One of those bits is this, which is an intercooler. Now this is obviously second hand, a bit used. But do we want to use this? I don't think we do, because we would like an AlliSport one. So, as you notice, I've got the AlliSport t-shirt on again today. Andrew, as I mentioned before, has been a great help because he's done the event. He's been there, he can tell me what it's like, he knows what we need to put in Purdy. And I'm talking to Andrew about lots of other exciting things as well, which you'll find out about later. So once again, thank you, Andrew. It's been really frustrating this week because what we intended to do was to get this front axle built up and get Purdy onto her front wheels as well, so we can move the whole thing out. And the reason we want to do that is we want to get the tub in and get that positioned on the chassis. Now, in order to do that, we've got another little job that we can do in the meantime. We've got this hoist up here that we used when this was a workshop for construction. What we need to do now is move the hoist from that beam to this one over here, so that when we get the tub in, we can lift it up, put the chassis back in underneath, and then the tub sits down on it. Minty's decided she wants to come and look at Purdy. Not sure what cats know about Land Rovers, but Chris is off to the garage to pick up some wheels and tyres in Delilah, followed by a goat. Oh, hang on a minute, we don't have a goat? Of course, had things gone to plan this week and all the parts turned up and we got the front axle done, these wheels would now be going straight on. As it is, we're just bringing them in for later. This is the clutch slave cylinder that's come out of the gearbox that we bought for Purdy that's attached to the engine that's now sitting in the chassis. We have a slight issue. It's nothing that can't be fixed, but this part shouldn't have come out. when we took the slave cylinder out, apparently. And what it's done is broken this little plastic bracket which is supposed to hold it in. Now the knock-on effect of that is we've just given ourselves another job, because in order to fix that we need to separate the engine and the gearbox, which is not in itself a difficult job, and this is a good time to do it when everything's accessible, but it does mean that we've just given ourselves a new job. It also means, on the plus side, that we can check the clutch and everything inside. So pluses and minuses, we'll take the pluses. We get some questions occasionally from our viewers on the YouTube channel. Thank you, by the way, for watching. So we've had a question this week: what percentage of original parts are we going to be using on Purdy? The honest answer is I don't actually really know, because we haven't finished the build yet. Obviously there's a lot of big things that are second-hand reused. The engine, the gearbox, the transfer box, the axles, most of the body panels will be reused parts. There's equally a lot of things that we would change anyway as a matter of course, things that you would use, safety things, brake pads, all sorts of things like that, we're obviously putting new in. My estimation, and it is an estimation only at this stage, is that it's probably going to be about 50-50, which I'm quite comfortable with. So I hope that answers your question. If you've got other questions, do post them below and then we'll address them in the next episode. Exciting delivery of wiring.
Crikey! Phew. Well, it's only a Meccano kit. It's just a grown-up one, isn't it?
So, another visitor to the workshop today who brought me goodies from the UK.
Bloody off again.
We're just waiting for bloody parts. It's so frustrating at the moment.
This is the wiring that's just come from Bradford 4x4. Wow, this is next level packing, guys. I need a bit like the Krypton factor to get into it, to be honest. But this is the chassis loom for Purdy. Just looks like a load of old dirty wire to you, doesn't it? But to me, this is really quite special. There we go. You can see it. This is a chassis loom. It's exciting. Just trying to make sense of the wiring spaghetti and work out where everything goes. So this loom basically goes front to back, and then this loom is the loom that goes into the bulkhead. Obviously they all join up. We've even got the fuse board with this loom. So Alan, who we got this loom off, thank you so much. That's absolutely brilliant. It's even got the bulkhead grommets in. All the plugs look good. So here we are at the end of build week 4. I thought last week was frustrating, but this week has been more frustrating just because the big order that we were expecting to come has been held up by customs in Paris. So we haven't been able to get the front axle done, which we really wanted to do, so that we could put the wheels on and progress. What we have done is positive though. We've got the engine in place and we've managed to get on with some other things. I am mindful, however, of the countdown board, which tells me 83 days until we have to take Purdy back to the UK for the roll cage. That's the maximum time we have, and that doesn't seem very long, so that's a bit scary. However, we will continue. If you've liked this week's video, please like and subscribe to the channel below. It really helps. And we are going to say that next week is going to be fantastic. I'm being positive that order will come. It will be all good. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.